On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast, Tesla held its earnings call for Q2, and I've got highlight clips from Elon Musk and the Tesla executive team, plus a summary and analysis of all the news. Plus, the Tesla diner is now open, and I got to go eat there. All that and more coming up next. What's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey joining you for episode 521 of Ride the Lightning. It is your weekly Tesla and EV podcast. To my left, Daisy the Boxer keeping me company on the couch, like Ed McMahon to Johnny Carson. And somewhere out in the rest of the house, my daughter is playing with the Labradors. I hope you're all doing very well. I am doing very well. I've had a very busy Tesla week that's not over yet. At the beginning of the week, well, I should say, tomorrow, as I record this, Saturday, is the X takeover, the Tesla takeover. I am emceeing the afternoon. I've got a meet and greet there. I'm on one panel as well. I hope I will get to meet a number of you or see a number of you again face to face, as I have had the privilege of doing so at the last couple years of the Tesla takeover. And then earlier this week, as it so happened, I was in Los Angeles on a business trip, and I got to go to the Tesla diner and eat there. It worked out about as perfectly as it could have. I mean, I wish I'd have had a little bit more time. I guess I should more say it just barely worked out, but I'm grateful that it did. So since, as always, there's so much to cover on an earnings call episode, and I absolutely just couldn't wait to talk about my experience at the Tesla diner after going there for lunch on Tuesday, I recorded this week's lightning round mini episode on Patreon about this. I think it's the 40 minutes long is the longest one I've ever done. That's what I was trying to say. I think it's the longest one I've ever done. But I don't want to lock that behind a paywall. So, because the Tesla diner, a lot of you are probably curious about it. So, as an early Ride the Lightning 10th anniversary present to all of you, I am unlocking that lightning round for everybody today, right now, Sunday morning, as soon as this episode goes live, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. So the kind and generous folks supporting me on Patreon got it right away, but now I invite all of you to visit my Patreon page to listen to this. You can find it at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. There's also a link in the episode description. And as I said, 40 minutes, I think the longest lightning round I've ever done. I have a lot to say about the Tesla diner, but if you don't want to go listen to it, that's fine. I will just tell you in very, very short summary, I was honestly blown away by how awesome that I thought the Tesla diner was. Like, I went in expecting to have fun, hoping the food would be pretty good. I was blown away on all fronts. So if you'd like to hear more about my experience visiting the Tesla diner on just its second day open to the public, I invite you to do so by visiting my Patreon page at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. Again, this one is unlocked for everybody. You don't have to be supporting me. You can just go there and click the play button. No problem. But if you do see it in your heart to, maybe you listen to it and you go, hey, these lightning rounds are pretty cool. I'd like to hear more of these. You can join me on Patreon, support me, support the podcast at that same website. There are a stacking number of perks and bonuses that come along with supporting me on Patreon, starting with early access to each week's episode and an ad-free version of every episode that you also get early. And then that $10 tier adds in addition to those two things, the lightning rounds, which there are now 152 of them. So there's a lot of extra Tesla and EV content up there for you if you want to join me on Patreon. But for now, it is time to get to the main event this week, the quarterly shareholder letter and earnings call for Q2, which of course covered April through June 2025. I start, as always, with the shareholder letter, and as always within that, I begin with the opening summary, or at least the most relevant part of it for this podcast. I'm not literally going to read you the entire shareholder letter. I'm picking out the things that are most interesting to me that I think might be the most relevant and interesting for you to hear about. So Tesla says, in part, quote, Q2 2025 was a seminal point in Tesla's history, the beginning of our transition from leading the electric vehicle and renewable energy industries to also becoming a leader in AI, robotics, and related services. Our first robo-taxi service launched in Austin in June. While the service is limited in initial scope, we believe our approach to autonomy, a camera-only architecture with neural networks trained on data from our global fleet of millions of vehicles, allows us to continually improve safety, rapidly scale the network, and improve profitability. We continue to expand our vehicle offering, including first builds of a more affordable model in June, with volume production planned for the second half of 2025. Additionally, we continued development of Semi and Cybercab, both slated for volume production in 2026. Well, really the only thing I want to comment on there is, hang on a second, what? First builds of the more affordable model were produced in June? Let's put a pin in that one. We are going to come back to it in the earnings call. Moving along here, revenue for the quarter, not awesome. Tesla says total revenue decreased 12% year over year to $22.5 billion. Year over year, revenue was impacted by the following items: a decline in vehicle deliveries, lower regulatory credit revenue, reduced vehicle average selling price, or ASP, due to mix, decline in energy generation and storage revenue due to lower ASP. And then on the positive, affecting the revenue, was a growth in services and other. We'll get to that a little later on. So lower regulatory credit revenue being a factor there. And unfortunately, that's just the new reality for Tesla specifically, because they've always been the largest beneficiary of those regulatory credit revenues because they produce exclusively electric vehicles, and they produce them in a far, far, far higher quantity than any other automaker in the US. So they have long enjoyed a tremendous advantage there, which within the rules is all fair to Tesla, but the rules have been changed as, of course, the Inflation Reduction Act, the tax credit, all those regulatory credits are going away after this quarter. Profitability. Ouch. Tesla says our operating income decreased 42% year over year to $900 million, resulting in a 4.1% operating margin. Year over year, operating income was primarily impacted by the following items. On the downside, again, lower regulatory credit revenue, an increase in operating expenses driven by AI and other R&D projects, a decline in vehicle deliveries, an increase in SBC. And then on the positive side, the profitability was positively impacted by a decrease in restructuring charges, lower cost per vehicle due to mix and lower raw materials, partially offset by lower fixed cost absorption and an increase in tariffs, growth in energy generation and storage gross profit. So energy. I know I don't talk about it a ton here on the podcast because I'm more interested in the cars, but energy continues to be a big part of the business, even while the automotive side struggles a little bit, relatively speaking. Obviously, Tesla's still absolutely clowning everyone else in the automotive industry, in the EV space, certainly on this side of the earth. But yes, relatively speaking, energy is really holding up its end of the bargain while automotive struggles a little bit. Now, to Tesla's credit, Elon Musk has been saying for a long time, well before the last election cycle and the political winds that shifted as a result of that, he has talked about how the energy side of the business is going to continue to outpace the automotive business, and we are seeing that exact thing come true right now. The good news is Tesla is still sitting on that, as I always like to call it, that Scrooge McDuck silo of cash. Maybe my fellow 40-somethings will appreciate the DuckTales, the Scrooge McDuck reference there to the silo of cash. But the company reporting quarter-end cash equivalents, and investments was $36.8 billion. That's the size of their Scrooge McDuck gold silo. The sequential decrease of $200 million was primarily the result of changes in restricted cash and cash used in financing activities, partially offset by free cash flow, end quote. Well, that seems like plenty of money still in the bank to weather any storms that may be ahead. In fact, stay tuned to hear more about potential storms ahead. And I promise that's actually, it's not quite as ominous as it sounds, I don't think. But yes, we are going to hear more about imminent dark clouds on the horizon for the automotive business at Tesla. But next up in the shareholder letter, in the automotive section, there are no changes at all to my favorite chart, my favorite part of the shareholder letter every quarter, which, as you all probably know by now, is the current installed annual vehicle capacity chart. S, X, 3, Y, and Cybertruck are all showing the same production status because they are, of course, out and producing cars. Cybercab remains tagged as construction, along with the Tesla Semi, has the same designation. And after the next generation Tesla Roadster saw its status change for the very first time ever last quarter, it is unchanged this quarter, remaining as design development in this Q2 2025 shareholder letter. Tesla notes in here, quote, "We continue to make progress preparing for the launch of additional models this year. Our entire model lineup is better than ever with recent updates. Our ongoing focus on supply chain robustness has enabled a resilient vehicle capacity base despite trade and policy uncertainties. We produced our 8 millionth vehicle in June," end quote. And if you're curious, as I always like to note these things because it's fun to recognize and appreciate these historical checkpoints as they happen in real time rather than only reflecting them back on them years later. The 8 millionth vehicle that Tesla ever made was an ultra red Model Y made in Giga Berlin. Now, Tesla said this about the US region in the automotive section. They said, "We had record test drives in North America, up 20% sequentially. Given the recent refreshes in our product portfolio," really the Model Y, "and rapid improvement in FSD supervised, it is paramount we maximize the number of prospective customers experiencing our vehicles. In May, the team launched the long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y with 357 miles of range, starting under $45,000 before incentives, opening the Model Y portfolio to more potential buyers." Well, it is quite simply a phrase you've heard me say before that is common in the Tesla space: butts in seats. That's what it takes. More test drives. That's really all it takes, typically, is butts in seats. More test drives equals more sales of Tesla vehicles. And I suspect many, if not most of us, are living proof of butts in seats being a policy that sells Tesla vehicles. They sell themselves once you take a drive. In the core technology section of the shareholder letter, Tesla reminds us how far we've come and how far we are still yet to go, saying, quote, "Our cars get better over time. A 2017 Model 3 owner today has access to features that did not exist when their car was built. Improved security and safety from Sentry Mode, Dashcam Viewer, Automatic Blind Spot Camera, and Dog Mode. Increased convenience thanks to cloud-based Tesla profiles, mobile app trip planner, battery preconditioning for faster supercharging, and entertainment options such as Netflix, YouTube, etc., among many others, all delivered for free via software updates. We launched the robo-taxi mobile app, which leverages existing Tesla app features and provides a seamless customer experience. With a Tesla profile, customers can request a ride, follow the vehicle's location, preset cabin temperature, unlock the car using their phone, have access to their favorite entertainment, and securely pay for the ride with their payment profile. Well, that is a fun reminder of not even all, of course, not even close to all, but some of the highlights of the features that Tesla has added over time via those free over-the-air software updates. And for me, I've said it before on here, I'm going to say it again now, Sentry Mode, still my all-time favorite software update. Now, many of you listening, your car came with Sentry Mode because you bought it after Sentry Mode was added. That's totally cool. That just means you have a different favorite software update ever than I do, since your timeline is different than mine as a Tesla owner. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just different timelines is all. But yeah, for me, having bought my 2018 Model 3 Performance before Sentry Mode was a thing, when that was added, I mean, I have it running all the time. It makes me feel secure. It really does make me feel better to have it running all the time. Now, of course, it doesn't guarantee that nothing bad's going to happen to my car, but at least if it does, our odds are I'm going to get it on film. I'm going to have it recorded, and there have been many, many, many examples of Sentry Mode producing, quite frankly, justice, whether it's the form of law enforcement penalizing somebody that did something to your car, or catching, whatever it is, catching a criminal, or there's plenty of instances where Sentry Mode has saved a Tesla owner's bacon in some way, shape, or form, and I'm so thrilled to have it. I guess dog mode would be number 2 on my list for now, because I do make use of that on a fairly regular basis as well, and it's such a great, you all know I'm such a dog person, so it is so nice to have that safety feature for our 4-legged friends that's been added since I took delivery of my first Tesla as well. Anyway, getting back to the shareholder letter, under battery, powertrain, and manufacturing, Tesla notes, quote, "Our lithium refining and cathode production plants remain on track to begin production in 2025, onshoring production of critical battery materials to the U.S. We are on course to begin domestic production of our first LFP cells for our energy storage products later this year," end quote. Now, I know they specifically said that those domestically produced and thus crucially tariff-free LFP batteries would be for energy storage, but maybe could they also be used in future more affordable vehicles, whether it's the one that they've already done test builds of or a future one? Because I just think it would make sense. Like, we've seen LFPs go in the standard range model, the standard Model 3, I guess. Not standard range, but the base Model 3 for a while there. And it, of course, offers a number of advantages, like being able to charge to 100% every day without a degradation penalty, without harming the battery, thus giving you more daily usable range in what is, of course, the lowest range Tesla, the base model. So maybe this lithium refining and cathode production plant that's going to make LFP cells, maybe those cells will, at some point sooner or later, be used in more affordable Tesla vehicles, particularly, again, in this tariff environment that we're in now, and with the tax credit going away. We shall see on all of that. Under services and other, remember this was one we put a pin in earlier, the services and other section, Tesla says, services and other gross profit grew 64% sequentially, partly due to improved supercharging gross profit generation from increased volume. we added over 2,900 net new supercharging stalls, growing the network 18% year over year. So 18%, that's a lot. That means there are 1/6 more superchargers now than there were 1 year ago. That's a lot. You take the entire network, 1/6 of it, and add on that 1/6. And that's how much it's grown in just 1 year. So if the supercharger network can continue to grow at, even if it's not 18%, but if it can continue to grow at a double-digit year-over-year clip, I think we should be in pretty good shape. Now, that's not to say that the supercharger network is in bad shape now. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's in really good shape, but the supercharger network's growth has to keep up with the fleet's growth. Tesla's making 1.8 to 2 million vehicles per year, roughly. That number is going to be going up in the coming years. So the supercharger network must follow suit. Also, the gross profit growth here is no doubt thanks to non-Teslas now being allowed to use the superchargers and paying a premium for that privilege. And that should continue to grow quite a lot, I would think. Maybe not suddenly, but even if it's just a slow, steady build, that income stream, that revenue stream should continue to grow for the foreseeable future, particularly as non-Tesla vehicles, EVs, are now starting to get the NACS port installed in them natively at the factory without any need for an adapter. So that's revenue that Tesla should be able to count on for forever, basically. And then at the end, in the Outlook section, under Volume Outlook, Tesla says, quote, "It is difficult to measure the impacts of shifting global trade and fiscal policies on the automotive and energy supply chains, our cost structure and demand for durable goods and related services. While we are making prudent investments that will set up both our vehicle and energy businesses for growth, the actual results will depend on a variety of factors, including the broader macroeconomic environment, the rate of acceleration of our autonomy efforts, and production ramp at our factories," end quote. So my translation of that is basically Tesla saying, we've set ourselves up as best as we can for the uncertainty ahead. Or at least that was my interpretation of it. And then the last thing I want to read for you here before I move on to the earnings call, the product outlook section to finish off the shareholder letter. That section reads, quote, "Our focus remains on prudently growing our vehicle volumes in a CapEx efficient manner by using our existing vehicle production capacity before building new lines. Plans for new vehicles that will launch in 2025 remain on track, including initial production of a more affordable model in the first half of 2025, which we've already come to learn was June. Our purpose-built robo-taxi manufacturing strategy, our purpose-built robo-taxi product, Cybercab, will continue to pursue a revolutionary unboxed manufacturing strategy and is scheduled for volume production starting in 2026. Now, note one thing out of here, and that is the way that Tesla phrased the more affordable model. They said, plans for new vehicles that will launch in 2025 remain on track, including initial production of a more affordable model, singular, in June, which says to me, and again, we're going to hear more about this in a minute, that it's not a Mini 3 and Mini Y right off the bat. It's one or the other, and well, you can guess which one it's going to be, and we're going to learn more about that later in the call. But one other note I guess I'll end on here. I can't wait to see the unboxed manufacturing process. I really hope Tesla releases a lot of videos for it as they build it and they ramp it up and they put it into action. I just think it would be so cool to get to see. Now, Maybe they won't. Maybe as a sort of competitor protection thing, like they don't want their competitors seeing the unboxed process. But if they are cool to show it, man, I hope they put out a bunch of videos about it, because that's going to be really neat to see, both in terms of initial layout, but then also seeing it as it gets faster and faster and faster. All right. In just a moment, we will move on to the main event, the earnings call. But first, a couple words from a couple friends of Ride the Lightning right after this.
Hi, this is Franz von Holzhausen, and you're listening to Ride the Lightning with Ryan McCaffrey, the Tesla unofficial podcast.
Before I get to the earnings call, and as always, there's plenty to get to there, a reminder that the 11th annual Tesla raffle from Chesed Chicago is here right now. You've all helped raise a lot of money for this excellent cause the past couple years, and I'm so grateful to you for that. And this year, right now, is your chance to do so again, and hopefully win the EV of your dreams in the process, whether it's a Tesla, a Rivian, a Lucid, or 50 grand in cash. Those are your choices. You've got a pretty big lineup of vehicles, including the Teslas, but also other stuff, or that 50 grand in cash. So get on over and check out that 11th annual raffle from Chesed Chicago right now, because whether you buy one ticket or 100, it is a win-win. You get a shot at an amazing prize, and your ticket helps Chesed Chicago support families in crisis through 80-plus life-saving programs, from food and furniture to job placement and more. Only 9,999 tickets are going to be sold. They are going fast, so get yours now. And I've got a little promo code for you here, so be sure to take advantage of it. Go to ccraffle.com and use the promo code RTL to get $25 off of 2 tickets. Or, if you want to really increase your chances, you'll get $500 off with that promo code if you buy 15 tickets. That's ccraffle.com, promo code RTL for $25 off of 2 tickets. Your chance to win big, give bigger, and maybe become the next winner of a brand new EV of your dreams. Thank you all for entering this to help out such a great cause. And also this week, don't forget about my friends at XCare. Accelerate Auto and their XCare extended warranty for your EV, which, yes, can cover your battery as well. They are out here redefining the EV extended warranty. They have not just thought outside the box, they've crushed and disassembled the box, and they've built something much better in its place. These folks are former Tesla employees. They're Tesla owners, so they know the cars, they get the cars, they've worked on the cars, and so they have really thought this thing through. The warranty has everything that Tesla's own extended warranty does, including $100 deductible, roadside assistance, but they've also got rental reimbursement, and they do some things that Tesla doesn't, including, by the way, letting you purchase the extended warranty after your factory warranty is up. With Tesla, you have to opt in to their extended warranty before your factory warranty is up. So if you've purchased a used car, that can be a problem unto itself as well. So I'm a big fan of XCare. I have it on our 2018 Model 3 Performance. I've used it a few times. Getting the reimbursement from a claim, super simple, super quick. So I do recommend it. And listeners of this podcast get $100 off of your policy when you select XCare's one-time payment option. Just use the discount code LIGHTNING. Go to xcare.com and figure out what makes sense for you. Maybe you'll want to mirror what I did, which is a 3-year, 40,000-mile extended warranty. Maybe you want to go 5 years, 50,000, 5 years, 60,000, 10 years, 125,000. Yes, you can go that high. Whatever you want to do, go to xcare.com. That's xcare.com.
This is Bill Daniels, the voice of Light Industries 2000, or KIT. You're listening to Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast. Happy electric motoring.
All right, we come to the Q2 earnings call itself. I've clipped out all the best, most interesting, most relevant things. As always, I start with Elon Musk's opening remarks. And boy, he is he's enjoying breaking his own records for how long these opening remarks are. This is 15 minutes and 24 seconds long. But as always, I do think it's worth listening to the whole thing just to hear what he has to say as sort of a summary and forward-looking statement, if you will, at each quarter. So it's 15 minutes. Buckle up. Enjoy.
So we've had a very exciting quarter. We're able to successfully launch robo-taxi, so providing our first drives with no one in the driver's seat, with paying customers in Austin. And as some may have noted, we've already expanded our service area in Austin. It's bigger and longer, and it's going to get even bigger and longer. We were expecting to really greatly increase the Austin service area to well in excess of what competitors are doing. And that's hopefully in a week or so, a couple weeks?
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
A couple weeks or so. And then we're getting the regulatory permission to launch in the Bay Area, Nevada, Arizona, and Florida, and a number of other places. So as we get the approvals and we prove out safety, then we'll be launching autonomous ride-hailing in most of the country. And I think we'll probably have autonomous ride-hailing in probably half the population of the U.S. by the end of the year. That's at least our goal, subject to regulatory approvals. I think we'll technically be able to do it. So, assuming we get regulatory approvals, it's probably addressing half the population of the U.S. by the end of the year. But we are being very cautious. We don't want to take any chances, and so we're going to go cautiously. But the service areas and the number of vehicles in operation will increase at a hyper exponential rate. Some other notable things. Model Y in June became the best-selling car in Turkey, Netherlands, Switzerland, and Austria. It is, I believe, the best-selling car of any kind in the world still. Autonomy is a big factor there. So even without supervised, even with just supervised self-driving, it's a huge selling point. And it's worth noting that we do not actually yet have approval for supervised FSD in Europe. So our sales in Europe, we think, will improve significantly once we are able to give customers the same experience that they have in the U.S. This is, I think, a very important point to convey. And we've been working with our main country regulator, which is the Netherlands. And I think we're close to getting approval with the Netherlands. Then it's going to go to the EU. It's quite a Kafkaesque. In fact, Kafka had no idea that something like the EU could exist. Beyond Kafkaesque challenges with bureaucracy, but we will get the approvals, and I think we'll get so people in Europe will have an experience similar to that of the US. In most of Europe, this year, hopefully, at least partially in this quarter. And then we also had some regulatory challenges in China, which we're hoping to unblock shortly, because we also cannot provide supervised FSD in China currently, but we hope to unblock that soon. That's another major. It really is the single biggest demand driver. And then within the U.S., as we get confident about safety in different geographic areas, we'll loosen up on how much somebody has to be laser focused, to have their eyes laser focused on the road. Because that's been a common complaint. In fact, it does create an odd safety issue where people will sometimes disengage autopilot, then do something, change the radio, or maybe look at the phone, drive with their knee, and then re-engage autopilot, which obviously is less safe than simply keeping autopilot on. So anyway, we're get that experience will improve in the next several weeks. Because of our focus on Austin with no one in the driver's seat, the production release of autopilot is actually several months behind what people experience on a robo-taxi in Austin. So now we have the robo-taxi in Austin launched. We'll be adding back those elements so that there will be a step change improvement in the autopilot experience for people outside of Austin. So this is really, as you can tell, this is very much sort of autonomy is the story. Like we need the physical product, without which you cannot have autonomy. But once you have a physical product, you need the autonomy is what amplifies the value to stratospheric levels. We also launched the Tesla Dyna, which has been a huge hit. It actually got worldwide attention, which is unusual for a Dyna. Dynas don't typically get headline news around Earth. But this is a pretty special Dyna, and if you're in the LA area, it's worth visiting. It's sort of a shiny beacon of hope in an otherwise sort of bleak urban landscape, frankly. So it's really quite a lovely experience. Great job by the Tesla team there. On the full self-driving front, just continue talking about that. We're continuing to make significant improvements just with the software. So we're expecting to increase the parameter count. Actually, at this point, I think we can probably 10x almost 10x the parameter.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 10x the parameter count. So this is actually a very tricky thing to do, because as you increase the parameter count, you get choked on memory bandwidth. But we currently think we can 10x the parameter count from what people are currently experiencing. That's so not just a 4x, actually 10x increase in parameter count. So there's still a lot of improvement on the existing hardware to happen. Energy is growing really well, despite headwinds from tariffs and various supply chain challenges. The Mega Pack is expanding capacity quickly, and we have upgrades to the Mega Pack that will make it even better. And we had record Powerwall deployments again in Q2. So I think batteries are going to be a massive thing. The scale of battery demand is, I think, not that many people appreciate just how gigantic the scale of battery demand is. The way to think about it is that the U.S. sustained power output for the U.S. grid is around 1 terawatt. But average usage is less than half a terawatt. If you add batteries to the mix, you can run the power plants 24/7 at full capacity, thus more than doubling the energy output per year of the United States, just with batteries. But that's again. Big deal. It's a really big deal. Optimus. So we're evolving the Optimus design and really getting Optimus to the point where it is a phenomenal design. So we're in Optimus version 2 right now, sort of 2.5. Optimus 3 is an exquisite design, in my opinion, and will be an incredible, as I've said many times before, predicted it will be the biggest product ever. It's a very hard problem to solve. You have to design every part of it from physics first principles. There's nothing that's off the shelf that actually works. So you've got to design every motor, gearbox, power electronics, control electronics, sensors, the mechanical elements. We've also got to train Optimus to use its limbs and its sensors with a neural net. But we'll be applying the same techniques that we've applied for our car, which is essentially a four-wheeled robot. And Optimus is a robot with arms and legs. So the same principles that apply to optimizing AI inference on the car apply to Optimus, because they're both really robots in different forms. And Tesla, it is important to note that Tesla is by far the best in the world at real-world AI. Like a clear proof point for that would be if you compare, say, Tesla to Waymo. Waymo's got, the car is festooned with God knows how many sensors. And yet, isn't Google good at AI? Yes, but they're not good at real-world AI. Thus far, Tesla is actually much better than Google by far, and much better than anyone at real-world AI. And by far, Tesla has the best inference efficiency. I think a key figure of merit for AI is what is the intelligence per gigabyte? And people talk about parameters, blah blah blah. But I think let's stop talking about parameters and talk about gigabytes, because with the parameters you can have 4-bit parameters, 8-bit parameters, 16-bit parameters, but the actual constraints in the hardware are how many gigabytes of RAM and how many gigabytes per second can you transfer from RAM. Therefore, it is not a parameter constraint. It is a byte constraint. Tesla has the highest intelligence density of any AI by far. And I have a lot of insight into this with XAI. XAI is, Grok is the smartest AI overall, but it's Grok 4 is a giant beast. Sort of at the terabyte level. So it's kind of important to note Tesla has the best intelligence density. And intelligence density will be a very big deal in the future. It is now. So with Optimus 3, which is really the right design, it's like it doesn't have, at this point, there's no significant flaws with the Optimus 3 design. But we are going to retool a bunch of things, so it'll probably be prototypes of Optimus 3 end of this year, and then scale production next year. I'm going to try to scale Optimus production as fast as it's humanly possible to do so, and try to get to 1 million units a year as quickly as possible. I think we can get there in less than 5 years. That's my sort of, I guess. That's a reasonable aspiration, is 1 million units a year. 5 years. That seems like an achievable target. In conclusion, so far 2025 has been a very exciting year. A lot of major milestones. We've made clear, demonstrable progress in autonomy that a lot of naysayers said we would not achieve. But it's worth noting that we have done what we said we were going to do. Doesn't mean we're always on time, but we get it done. And our naysayers are sitting there with egg on their face. So great progress by the Tesla team. I do think if Tesla continues to execute well with vehicle autonomy and humanoid robot autonomy, it will be the most valuable company in the world. It's a lot of execution between here and there. It doesn't just happen. But provided we execute very well, I think Tesla has a shot at being the most valuable company in the world. Anyway, obviously, I'm extremely optimistic about the future of the company. Best way to predict the future is to make it happen, and we're making it happen here with the Tesla team. So I'd just like to say thanks to all of our supporters, and I think we've got an incredibly exciting future.
Let me start with the robo-taxi stuff that he talked about. First, that in the next couple weeks, they anticipate expanding their Austin service area again for the second time. That continues to be a really good, very simple, but nevertheless very good indicator that they are seeing good data and not running into any show-stopping issues. Now, is what I just said a vast oversimplification of the situation? No doubt it is, but since we're not privy to Tesla's more specific robo-taxi data, this is about the only indicator we have that things are going well, but it is clearly a meaningful indicator. Second, still on the robo-taxi front, we have news on the next regions that Tesla's targeting to roll out the service. I am lucky to be up here in the San Francisco Bay Area where we are next. In fact, today as I'm recording, Friday, there was a report that, at least as of this recording, has not come true yet, but we'll see, that this weekend Tesla might unleash the robo-taxi service here. So if they do, then, well, I'll be talking about it on next week's podcast. That is for sure. But the Bay Area appears to be very imminent. And then, of course, Elon mentioned Nevada there, which presumably that means Vegas to start with. But I think we have to acknowledge that Reno could be in the mix there as well. I don't know if it would be an either or if it might be an and situation. But Reno has to be considered since, of course, Tesla has a gigafactory up there. Then Elon mentioned Arizona, which we already knew about. I talked about that on, I think, last week's podcast. And then Florida up next as well. And it certainly leads me to wonder, where in Florida might they start? Miami is the first guess, but it is just that, a guess. I don't know if there might be another spot that they have in mind, or if it could be multiple cities. That is entirely possible. But now we know where the next few stops are on the robo-taxi nationwide tour. And then on the FSD supervised front, it sounds like Tesla is pretty ready to go global with this thing. In fact, again, as I recorded today, there was a post by Tesla showing the right-hand drive cars in the UK doing FSD supervised. Europe and China, most of Europe anyway, and China seem ready to go, pending regulatory approval. I will say I'm surprised that Elon didn't mention Australia, as they apparently are ready to go down there. Like, the American sports analogy would be that they're on the 1 yard line. I must apologize, by the way, to my Australian friends. I'm just not sure what the equivalent rugby analogy would be for this. I don't know rugby at all. But in American football terms, it's on the 1 yard line down in Australia when it comes to FSD supervised. Now, Elon suggested that once FSD supervised hits Europe, that it could be a demand driver for the cars themselves. I admit that I hadn't really considered that, but I certainly can't argue against it. Although, later in the call, Tesla commented on the take rate of FSD supervised where it is available. And so I wonder how much of a demand lever it might actually be. We'll see, but I hope he's right. And then still on this topic, Elon acknowledged that we have not had any meaningful updates, as we all know, those of us that either subscribe to FSD or have purchased it, we have not had any meaningful updates to FSD supervised in literally months now. But he says that once that production branch starts catching up with the robo-taxi branch, that we're going to see a, quote, step change improvement, and for dessert on that, less vigilant eye tracking. And I can't wait. I want to see what a step change looks like. Again, if I know I recommended that all of you go and watch, at the very least, the sped up 3-minute version of the self-delivered Model Y. Of course, I interviewed the owner a couple episodes ago. That video gives a pretty clear indication of how well the robo-taxi branch of full self-driving is doing. And the idea of getting that in our cars soon just makes me super excited. I mean, that is the idea of that coming along is really enticing. Can't wait to see that. Now, we've been lucky to have a pretty steady stream of updates overall. Like, again, we do my patented pullback to the 10,000 foot view. Like, if you look at the history of the FSD beta, which of course later became FSD supervised, that was 5 years ago. And we've had a pretty steady stream of updates. For a lot of that time, it was a pretty consistent, almost metronome-like every 2 weeks. Sometimes it would go a little longer. But I feel like right now, we're in the longest drought we've ever been in. And I don't think we've ever lagged this far behind what Tesla is cooking up internally. Now, in this case, we know that's because that's publicly visible in the robo-taxi fleet. So there's a pretty strong gap, pretty big gap between the robo-taxi software and what's currently in our cars. And I can't wait till our cars start catching up. It should be to put it mildly, should be a very noticeable update whenever we do finally get it. And in what could probably be labeled as the theme of this earnings call, you heard Elon say, quote, autonomy is the story. Now, on Optimus, it sounds like the big version 3 changes are going to be pretty substantial on Optimus. And since he mentioned prototypes for that version 3 coming around the end of the year this year, it flashed me back to one of my big topics from last week, and that was that hype tweet that Elon put out about the most epic demo ever coming at the end of the year. So now it's got me rethinking it again. Was that post on X referring to Optimus and not, in fact, the Roadster? So rather than just torture myself with that question, I thought I would open it up to all of you as well as the topic of this week's Patreon poll. Again, the poll is free to anybody every week. It's never a pay thing. Of course, Lightning Round is always a pay thing. It's always one of the perks of being in my Patreon as a paying supporter. Except for this week, again, it's just as an early 10th anniversary gift from me to you, because it is next week's episode 522 will officially be the 10th anniversary of Ride the Lightning. But anyway, the poll is free. Patreon.com/Tesla podcast. And this week's Patreon poll question was, is the most epic demo ever that Elon was posting about the new Roadster or the new Optimus? 50% of you said he's talking about the next-gen Roadster. But 36% of you said he's talking about Optimus version 3. 8% of you said, I think it's something else. So certainly a pretty clear, almost majority there, 50%. But 36%, there's still plenty of folks that think he's talking about Optimus. So I guess all we can do is wait and see on that, either to the end of the year or if he clarifies that at some point. He did not clarify that on the earnings call this week. But thank you all again for voting in this week's Patreon poll. Everybody is welcome to stop by and vote in each week's new poll. They typically go up on Tuesdays in the evening. Okay, next up, we move to the most upvoted retail shareholder questions, starting with one about how the robo-taxis are doing in Austin so far and what rate of coverage area expansion that we should expect. Elon did touch on this in the opening statement that I already played you, but this new clip here, that's much shorter than 15 minutes, gives us a bit more detail from Ashok, the head of the Tesla AI team.
Yeah, the robo-taxi has been doing great so far in Austin. Customers really love the experience. It's like super smooth, very safe, and like just a great experience overall. And we already did a first wave of expansion in Austin, and we'll continue to expand in Austin to probably more than 10x our current operating region. We're also testing in a lot of other cities, as Elon mentioned. The next thing to expand would be in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are working with the government to get approval here, and in the meanwhile, launch the service with the person in the driver's seat just to expedite, and while we wait for regulatory approval. We're also testing a lot of other cities in the US, including Florida, Nevada, etc.
Well, Elon had also posted earlier in the week saying that Bay Area regulators were being, quote, very reasonable. So that does seem to suggest that they're not running into any major red tape here in my neck of the woods, and that the rumor is that this weekend, even if it's not this weekend, it sounds like it is pretty imminent. But in the meantime, they're going to 10x their footprint in Austin. That is certainly a good sign that things are going well. Okay, next up is, do we have any update, Elon, on full self-driving unsupervised for personal use in our own cars? Great question from the retail shareholders here, and here's the answer.
We're certainly getting there. I think it'll be available for unsupervised personal use by the end of this year in certain geographies. We're just being very careful about it. So.
This is not something which we want to rush.
No.
We want to make sure that everything is safe before we make it available broadly.
Yeah, we're just being extremely paranoid.
Yes.
But I'm confident that by the end of this year, within a number of cities in the U.S., it'll be available to end users.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, the same AI hardware in the Austin robotaxi vehicles has some customer vehicles, and
right.
We did deliver a car autonomously from the factory to a customer this quarter.
Yes.
And every Tesla manufactured in the US and in Europe autonomously drives itself from the end of line to the loading docks. And so it's just a software upgrade away.
Yeah. I think we'll end up delivering cars in the greater Austin area and the Bay Area by default from the factory by the end of this year. Like a car will deliver itself to where you are, unless you say you don't want that.
It'll be super cool.
Yeah.
Again, I say it politely, we all know not to necessarily put any large wagers in Las Vegas on Elon's timelines, but end of year here in the Bay Area and perhaps several other cities would make for one heck of a holiday update. That is for sure. Also, more self-delivered cars are coming. I was just wondering about that the other day, that we haven't heard about anymore, and I was pleasantly surprised that he mentioned the Fremont factory in that as well. Presumably that will start happening once California gives their regulatory approval for the robo-taxi service to operate. But in Fremont, what's cool is, compared to Texas, in Fremont, that might mean that S's, X's, and 3s all self-delivering in addition to the new Model Y. Although if Fremont ends up sending out driverless S, X, and Y, but not the 3, well, then we'll know that that lower front bumper camera that the Model 3 still currently does not have is indeed a big piece of the full self-driving unsupervised puzzle. So I will be keeping my eyes open on that one. Next up was a retail shareholder upvoted question asking about the status of the more affordable car.
Well, I think Vaibhav did a good job of answering this question in his opening remarks. As we said, we started production in June, and we're ramping quality builds and things around the quarter. And given that we started in North America, and that our goal is to maximize production with the IRA cliff ending in Q3, we're going to keep pushing hard on our current models to avoid complexity. Then, fortunately, when that rolls away, we'll be ready with the new, more affordable models available for everyone in Q4. The goal of those products was not to negatively impact revenue or gross margin, but just to make a car that everyone loves and wants at a more affordable price.
I have to tell you that I thought I was hallucinating at first when our friend Lars said that production had started in June, because I was thinking, wait, was I in a coma for all of June? Because I haven't seen this. But then I just realized that he meant internal test builds, not like a publicly available customer delivered car. And it sounds like Q4 is when we should really expect that more affordable car. Coincidentally, right as the cost of the Model Y will go up by $7,500 for most buyers with the expiration of that point of sale $7,500 tax credit. All right, next up, meaning it's perfectly timed, that it's exactly when Tesla needs it. Next up on this next clip, shout out to the retail shareholders for sufficiently upvoting a question that actually got Franz von Holzhausen to make a rare speaking appearance on an earnings call. The question asked was, what's going on at the design studio these days? And here's what Franz had to say.
Do you want me to take that one? We kind of generally say that what happens in the studio stays in the studio. And that, earnings calls are not the place to disclose new product stuff, but we're working to make sure that we have an exciting future for our Tesla and the product lineup.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting things happening in the design studio. It's not like static. And really what's going to happen over the next several years is a fundamental transformation of the company from a pre-autonomy world to a post-autonomy. And I'm working on a new master plan to articulate that Tesla team. And there will be some teething pains as you transition from a pre-autonomy to a post-autonomy world. But I think the future vision for Tesla is incredibly exciting and will profoundly change the world in a good way. This may sound like sort of pipe or whatever, but I think let's just say if we execute on that plan effectively, which is you have to actually do that, Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world by far.
You might think that I'm being wildly hyperbolic here, but after Elon said that there is a, quote, fundamental transformation of the company that's coming, that's centered around autonomy, and that there would be some teething pains, and that he's working on a new master plan, it honestly, I have to be honest, it stirred up my worst fears as someone that loves Tesla as a company, but more specifically, someone that loves their cars as a car guy. That fear being that Tesla doesn't really want to make cars anymore, which would be a far cry from Battery Day 5 years ago, almost exactly, where they laid out their plan for scaling up to 20 million cars per year by 2030. And then that got me thinking about something else. That if Tesla doesn't intend to make any new models beyond what they've already announced, with meaning the Cybercab next and volume production of the Tesla Semi, that perhaps the new next-gen Roadster could be the last new model they ever make. Now, I'm not saying they're going to stop making cars altogether. I'm not saying that at all. But it sure doesn't sound like they're too keen on making a minivan, a hot hatch, a delivery van, a larger boxy SUV, 3-row, any of that stuff. Yes, they're going to keep making the 3 and the Y in volume, presumably alongside the S and X, which Elon has said they continue to do for sentimental reasons, and the Cybertruck. They will build what could be millions of Cybercabs. I acknowledge that as well. So if we take our friend Lars at his word that Tesla is going to put the new Roadster out in the next few years, then it could end up being kind of poetic in what would be a bittersweet way for me that Tesla's first vehicle was the original Roadster, and perhaps their last new model they ever make is the new Roadster. Kind of a weird full circle moment. But I hope I'm totally wrong on that, and that they are in fact down the road going to make lots of new different models and not just variants of Model Y and Model 3. I mean, maybe you got something different out of Elon's comments there, but I couldn't help but think that he really doesn't see an expanded vehicle lineup as a key part of Tesla's future anymore, which, if that's the case, huge if, because again, this is what I'm interpreting out of it. Maybe I'm kind of going a little too far off the deep end with my interpretation, but they can do both. It doesn't have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be autonomy, like all autonomy in robotics and no more vehicles. It can be both. They can make 20 million cars per year and millions of robots per year and lead the world in autonomy. They have the talent and the resources to do it all. But at least from those comments that Elon just made and the roadmap that we have for Tesla right now in terms of vehicles, which again, I covered on a recent episode, it's scaling up the Semi, it's producing the Cybercab, and it's maybe getting the Roadster finally done, which won't be high volume even if they do come out with it. And that's it. There are 0 other announced vehicles in the pipeline. So again, maybe I'm being alarmist here, but as a car guy and someone that loves Tesla's cars, not that I don't love the other stuff they're doing, I do, but I really hope that the next Roadster, the new Roadster, isn't going to be this poetic, full circle, bittersweet, last new model that they ever make. All right, next up, major props here go to the retail shareholders for getting what is, in my opinion, a very key question asked on the call, and that is, what is going on with the Hardware 3 retrofits for those Hardware 3 vehicle owners who've paid for FSD? Here is Tesla's CFO to answer that one.
I mean, what we want to do is we want to get unsupervised done on Hardware 4 first. Once it's done, then we will go back and look at what we need to do with the Hardware 3 cars. I mean, like I said, the focus is first to get unsupervised out, and then we'll go back and see what more work we need to do.
Honestly, as the owner of an AI4 car, I can't argue with this answer. It makes sense. I mean, they're going to get full self-driving unsupervised out the door first, then see where they stand and take stock of exactly what they need to do in order to bring the Hardware 3 cars up to FSD unsupervised capability. Meaning, can they get away with just swapping the computer, or do they need to do the cameras as well? I mean, I'm satisfied with that answer. I really am, even if I recognize that it's probably now going to be anywhere between 6 and 12 months, potentially more, before we are likely to get any movement on this again. All right, the next question was about Dojo and specifically a Dojo 2 chip, but Elon seemingly pivoted it to a much more interesting, in my opinion, topic, AI 5 for our cars.
Dojo 2, we expect to have Dojo 2 operating at scale sometime next year, with scale being somewhere around 100K H100 equivalents. And then AI 5, which is really a spectacular chip. I don't use those words lightly. It's spectacular chip. The AI 5 chip will be hopefully be in volume production around the end of next year. That has a lot of potential. I think, thinking about Dojo 3 and the AI 6 inference chip, it seems like intuitively we want to try to find convergence there, where it's basically the same chip, but is used where we use, say, 2 of them in a car or an Optimus, and maybe a larger number on a board, like kind of 512 on a board or something like that. If you want high bandwidth communication between the chips at a forced serving, doing inference serving, that sort of seems like intuitively the sensible way to go.
Well, this may disappoint some of you because that is a notable timeline change. Elon had maybe a few quarters back at this point. It definitely wasn't the recent past. It was a little while ago. But he had previously mentioned that AI 5 might start rolling out at the end of this year. I think he might have said that sometime last year. Turns out, it looks like it's going to be the end of 2026, the end of next year instead. So if you are out there waiting for an AI 5 car before you upgrade to a new Tesla or purchase your first Tesla, well, you've got a longer wait ahead of you. So I'm sorry to have to break the news to you on that. Well, next up, the next clip I have, we move to the institutional analyst questions that were asked directly on the call live, with the first one that I want to play for you being about whether Elon still feels as though he needs a bigger stake in the company in order to best secure its future.
Yeah, that is a major concern for me, as I've mentioned in the past, and I hope that is addressed at the upcoming shareholders meeting. But it is a big deal. I want to find that I've got so little control that I can easily be ousted by activist shareholders after having built, this army of humanoid robots. I think that, as I mentioned before, I think my control of a Tesla should be enough to ensure that it goes in a good direction, but not so much control that I can't be thrown out if I go crazy.
Well, I guess that sounds reasonable, right? Enough to set the direction, but not enough to avoid getting thrown out if, in his own words, he goes crazy. I guess that's fair. That's fair. We'll see what happens with that. I suppose the annual shareholder meeting coming up later this year in, I believe it's November is what we were told it's going to be there. That could very well be a time when this either gets proposed or voted on or otherwise addressed in some meaningful manner. Well, up next, let's see. I've still got several clips for you here. This one is about the answer to the question: when can people put their personal cars into the robo-taxi network to earn them money?
We haven't really thought hard about that. We need to make sure it works when the vehicles are fully under our control. It's kind of one step at a time here. We don't want to jump the gun. As I said, we're being paranoid about safety. So it's like, but I guess it would, like next year is, I'd say confidently next year. I'm not sure when next year, but confidently next year, people would be able to add or subtract their car to the Tesla fleet.
I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that we will have some criteria, because like even when you put your car in an Uber or Lyft fleet, they go through a whole checklist process of making sure things are working.
It's like an Airbnb or something
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we will do something like that.
Kind of vetting process.
Yes. Because we want, like Elon said, we want to be paranoid about security. I mean, small things like tread on the tire can have an impact on safety. So that's why we would want to do some proper validation before we let other cars come in.
So again, take the timeline with a grain of salt. There is still a long way to go between where they're at now with safety monitors in the front passenger seat and a limited operating zone in what is, for the moment, at least as I record this, one city, to Tesla owners being able to put their own cars into the fleet to make them money. And that bit about personal cars needing to be inspected and approved, by the way, it's a really important thing that I admit I had not given a moment's consideration to before. But it makes perfect sense, right? You don't want someone with a cracked windshield or body damage or bald tires putting their car in the robo-taxi fleet. It's a safety hazard, first and foremost, and it's just a bad look for Tesla as, again, very secondary piece to the safety side of it as well. All right, we move to the final three questions, or at least the final three clips that I've prepared for you here. This first of those three was about the FSD take rate and subscription trends.
So we've definitely, like I mentioned it in my opening remarks, since we've launched version 12 of FSD in North America, we've definitely seen a marked improvement in the FSD adoption. And the other thing which we had also done last year is we did bring down the pricing, and we made subscription much more affordable. So we have seen, 25% increase since that time. So, which is an encouraging trend. But honestly, we've just started the story around explaining the benefits of FSD. Like I said before, we released our vehicle safety report. Even if you don't believe in this, anything else, a car on FSD being 10x safer should be a motivator. Plus, the other thing is, people don't realize, even at $99 a month, it's like you're getting a personal chauffeur for almost $3.33 a day. And this is by far the biggest game changer, which I know we've been talking about it because part of it is we live and breathe it, but
yeah,
I feel like
most people still don't know.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people don't know it exists. And it's still like half of Tesla owners who could use it haven't tried it even once. They don't actually realize that. Obviously, this is something we want to educate them on. So we've got to, when they come in for service, we'll reach out to them, send them like videos of how to make it work. It's such a shocking thing. They don't think a car is capable of this. So you have to show them and get them comfortable with turning it on and off. It's so trivial, but it's like saying you've got a cat that can sing and dance, but it just looks like a normal cat. And you're like, until you see the cat sing and dance and talk, you assume it's just a cat. That's Tesla FSD.
Yes.
Our car is intelligent.
And so what we're going to do, to Elon's point, we've been giving people free time to try the FSD, but we'll start giving more prompts to say, okay, this particular drive, try FSD. So that, because it's literally seeing is believing. Like Elon said, think of it like a cat. It looks like a normal cat, but this cat can sing and dance.
Yeah.
Same thing on FSD.
Intelligent.
I've always liked Elon's analogies. He's good at making things that might be complicated seem relatable and easy to understand. And on this topic, I like the singing and dancing cat analogy. It's fun. But yeah, a 25% uptick is substantial. and speaking to both the more affordable $99 per month subscription price, but also how good it's gotten, right? And so I wonder what will happen in Europe once regulators do finally approve full self-driving supervised. Obviously, the take rate should skyrocket because it is almost certainly near zero right now, because due to regulatory approval or lack thereof, people in Europe haven't had access to any of these features at all, just for years and years and years now. So I expect that the take rate in Europe is hovering near zero. So it has nowhere to go but up. But that is still going to be an interesting piece of data to see in the next quarter or two once regulators do finally approve FSD supervised for Europe. And once FSD unsupervised rolls out to customer cars, that is when there should be a legitimate boost to the take rate that becomes a permanent increase, meaning it raises the floor on the FSD take rate. All right, time for the penultimate clip that I have ready for you from the Q2 earnings call. This one's about Tesla's pricing strategy once the tax credit goes away next quarter. Here is how Elon answered it.
Well, we're in this weird transition period where we will lose a lot of incentives in the U.S. We still have incentives actually in many other parts of the world, but we'll lose them in the U.S. But we'll still be at the relatively early stages of autonomy. On the other hand, autonomy is most advanced and most available from a regulatory standpoint in the U.S. So, does that mean we could have a few rough quarters? Yeah, we probably could have a few rough quarters. I'm not saying we will, but we could. Q4, Q1, maybe Q2. But once you get to autonomy at scale in the second half of next year, certainly by the end of next year, I think I'd be surprised if Tesla's economics are not very compelling.
See, now, this is the blessing and the curse, the double-edged sword of having a CEO who doesn't do PR speak. Elon was honest here. I can reasonably say, I can say with a reasonable amount of confidence, you would never, and I mean never, hear another Fortune 500 company CEO be this blunt about bad news, especially future bad news versus present bad news. Future bad news, anybody else is going to be coached by their PR and comms team to put a brave face on it, even if it's probably going to be rough. And in fact, if I took a look first at the after hours stock ticker, which the after hours Tesla stock price plunged after he said that the next 3 quarters might be really rough. And then it carried over to the next day where Tesla was down 30 points. So you know what though? I appreciate the honesty. Why sugarcoat it and lie to your investors? Because if it's going to go poorly, then that means that hit to the stock is going to happen at some point. This, in some way, is just kind of getting it out of the way early. But I suppose this also answered my question about why Elon wasn't opposed to the end of the tax credits. Because he seemingly believes, at least again, my interpretation based on his answer here, he believes that autonomy will make the tax credit loss irrelevant anyway, because they're going to reach full autonomy, and that's just going to build Tesla a very, very wide and very deep moat of money. So compared to the competition. So, I would still disagree with opposing the end of the credit, but you know what? At this point, that's a moot point anyway, because it's happening, whether you support that being the case or not. So, all right, last clip I have for you, the last thing here. We had a question looking for details about the more affordable model, including, bold question, which I appreciate, what's it going to look like? So take a listen to this response.
Oh, we won't get into the looks because
it looks like a Model Y. Yeah. There's the cat out of the bag there. Dancing cat that can sing and dance. But it can talk and sing and dance, though. That's the cool part. Yeah, I mean, the fundamentally, the biggest obstacle remains that people just don't have enough. Some people don't. The desire to buy the car is very high. Just people don't have enough money in their bank account to buy it. Literally, that is the issue. Not a lack of desire, but a lack of ability. So the more affordable we can make the car, the better. I think it's going to be. It will be a very big deal when people can release their car to the fleet and have it earn money for them. Which, like I said, I feel confident in saying that'll happen next year in the U.S. at least. And in the U.S. we're legally allowed, appropriate disclaimers, and that'll make the affordability dramatically greater. Just like if you have an Airbnb and you can rent out your home when you're not there, or rent out a guest room or guest house or something like that, the affordability of your home is much greater.
I say this very politely, but I'm not sure why anyone was still thinking that this would be some new design, because it's been said by Lars on previous earnings calls, and Elon was as blunt as you could possibly get right there. It's just a Model Y. Now, I am wondering if I may have been partially wrong on this the entire time, because he didn't say it's a smaller Model Y. He just said, it's a Model Y. So, now, maybe he would just leave out that word, but perhaps it's possible that it's not a Model Y Mini, as I've been calling it, and it's instead just a super stripped down version of the existing Model Y, not unlike the old $35,000 standard range Model 3 from back in 2019, meaning no power seats, no ventilated seats, fabric seats, no power rear liftgate, no autopilot software included. You'd have to pay for even that. Smaller, cheaper wheels, a smaller battery pack with less range, maybe even a non-glass roof, a metal roof, no accent lighting in the interior, etc. That kind of stuff. In fact, I think I did a lightning round on this a month or two back for those of you on Patreon that want to go take a listen to that. But I guess we'll find out pretty soon, one way or the other. If the test builds already exist and have for a month or so, we're going to inevitably, one way or another, whether it's Tesla officially announcing it, adding it to the design studio, or whether there are leaked pictures, spy photos, that kind of thing, we're going to find out about this thing sooner rather than later. And that's it. That's everything I've got for you. It was a dozen clips this time around, which is usually about, I've noticed that's about how many I typically pull, is about 12, give or take a couple. But another busy earnings call, plenty of interesting things said and learned on this quarter's earnings call. So I hope you enjoyed that summary, that recap, that analysis, those highlights, and means we're almost done with the podcast now. And I know this is a long one, so I want to be respectful of people's time. So I will pivot straight to what's going on with my car, the Soul of Adventure. Hopefully, by the time most of you hear this, hopefully the Tesla/X takeover event will have gone very well. As I said, I've got a meet and greet. I am emceeing the afternoon. I'm on a panel. So hopefully it will have all gone well. I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow as I record this. So I hope to see plenty of you there, either meeting you for the first time or seeing you again from a previous event. How about an entertainment recommendation for this week? I've got a good one for you. It's for the new Nintendo Switch 2, and the game is Donkey Kong Bonanza. It is awesome. I'm a good way into it right now. I've still got plenty to go, but it's fantastic. My day job, IGN, we gave it a 10 out of 10. It's from the same development team that developed Super Mario Odyssey, which was the last major 3D Mario game, and this is a major 3D Donkey Kong platforming game. Yeah, I'm having a ball with it so far. The literal entire environment is destructible. You can just punch it with Donkey Kong's massive strength, and so you can just tunnel your way anywhere you want, and that opens up a lot of interesting gameplay possibilities. So I'm having fun with that. If you've picked up a Switch 2, I absolutely I think, granted it's a small sample size right now, Donkey Kong Bonanza is unquestionably the best game on the Nintendo Switch 2 so far. I mean, it's only been out for a month and a half, basically, but that's it is awesome. We gave it a 10 at IGN, like I said, so do pick it up if you've got a Switch 2. Time for your Tesla Pro Tip of the Week. It comes from Eric in Vermont.
Hey, Ryan, this is Eric from Vermont with a pro tip. My family and I, we've been listening to the audiobook series Harry Potter, and sometimes when we're listening to the book, the navigation voice just comes on a little bit too loud, and rather than going through the navigation controls and adjust the volume, if you turn the left scroll wheel down, which is the volume control for whatever audio is, while the navigation voice is speaking, it will turn down the volume of the navigation and not your audio that you're playing back. So hope that helps other people if they want to just listen to whatever they're listening to. Thanks.
I did not know this one, Eric. Thank you very much. I think this is an excellent and very useful pro tip. Now, funny enough, I actually muted my navigation voice on the first day of getting both of my Teslas. It was one of the first things I did in both cars. But I suppose maybe I'm in the minority there, and most people like having the audio cues from the navigation system. And for those of you that do, this is perfect for you folks. So thank you so much. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Thomas from Massachusetts, who emailed me to tell me that he put all of the pro tips that I have aired on this podcast going back to episode 250, which means 270 of them, on a website that he built that you can find at rtlprotips.com. So I'm not affiliated with this. It's all Thomas, but this is super cool that he built this. He says he's going to update it each week, and he wrote me and he said, quote, "It's completely free to access with no ads and no registrations. I know you've mentioned teslaprotips.com before, but this is different." By the way, that site's cool too. That's another fan-made site. He says, "But this is different. It is strictly the pro tips from each episode of your podcast with direct links to the timestamp of the pro tip and the ability to favorite and upvote or downvote each tip. You can sort by top voted or filter by your favorites. You can also search all tips either by text content, tags, or author." So, Thomas, bravo, sir. What an awesome thing to do for your fellow Ride the Lightning listeners. I really appreciate this. I didn't ask Thomas to do this. He just messaged me and said, "Hey, I built this." That is the kind of awesome community, just kindness, community kindness that I've seen with all of you time and time again in the Tesla community, and specifically here in the Ride the Lightning community as well. And by the way, I know there was no time for the Ride the Lightning hotline this week, but if you have either a pro tip to send in, because I'm always looking out for new, good Tesla and EV pro tips of the week, like the one you just heard a couple minutes ago, or if you've just got a regular Ride the Lightning hotline phone call, a question, comment, or discussion topic for me, there are two easy ways that you can send that in, and I'll get back to the hotline next week, I promise you. So you can either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record your question. I kindly ask that you keep it to 90 seconds or less so that I can get to as many callers each week as possible, and then send that file to me at my email address, which is teslapodcast@gmail.com. Or the second method that you can submit questions, submit those phone calls, is by calling the Ride the Lightning hotline and leaving a message. It is toll-free. You can do it anytime, day or night. And the phone number is 1-888-989-8752. That number again, 1-888-989-TSLA. And by the way, if you know someone special out there with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. Before I get out of here, I want to mention a few more friends of Ride the Lightning that can hopefully be of use to you sooner or later, starting with abstractocean.com, who very kindly continues to offer a 15% discount off of your first order for listeners of this podcast by using the coupon code RTL Podcast at checkout. That's all one word, no spaces in there, RTL Podcast. They've got so many things. The thing to do is go to abstractocean.com, click on which car you have near the top of the screen. That will filter by everything available for your car. A lot of lighting kits, lighting accessories, also the tempered glass screen protectors. And for you Cybertruck owners, some really cool stuff. Custom pre-cut fit Expel armor pieces. This is PPF for the non-stainless pieces of the truck. So they've got the rear bumper Expel armor protection. Easy to install yourself because, again, it's pre-cut. There's the front bumper protection, the truck bed sail trim and lip protection, the fender flares. It goes on and on. Rocker protection, tailgate protection, the armor, the vault armor walls. It just goes on and on. There's plenty of pieces for, if you want to keep your Cybertruck looking as nice as it possibly can. The stainless is going to hold up, but the rest of it, using the Expel pre-cut PPF pieces, definitely a good idea if you want to keep that Cybertruck looking pristine. So again, head on over to abstractocean.com. If you either want to put a front license plate on your Tesla or other EV, or you are legally required to do so by the state or territory that you live in, I very much recommend that you buy the snap plate rather than use the thing that Tesla gives you with the car, which is probably in your trunk well, the sub-trunk. That's where it was in my car, my most recent car. And the reason that I recommend the snap plate rather than the one that Tesla gives you is because the Tesla one sticks to the front of your car with automotive tape, meaning if you ever want to get it off, good luck getting it off without damaging the paint in some way, somehow. So the snap plate goes on in seconds, but when it's on securely. It's a nice, clean, minimal design, which I'm a big fan of clean minimalism design, especially on something like that, which isn't officially part of the car, but you've got to have it there for legal reasons. So go to everyamp.com/RTL or click the link in the episode description and then choose either the snap plate or the stronger snap plate plus. Either way, when you've got what you want in your online shopping cart and you're at checkout, use the coupon code RTL for a discount. Speaking of discounts, Jeff, my friend over at Immaculate Reflections, the greater San Francisco Bay Area professional detailer that has done magic on both of my Teslas. Well, he's offering that same magic to you if you are going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area with your Tesla or another car in your garage that you care about. I urge you to make an appointment with Immaculate Reflections through their website, which is irdetailing.com. And the reason that I urge you to do that, is because I actually guarantee that when you pick up your car, you're going to be thrilled. I mean, Jeff is an artisan with this stuff. Whether you want to do paint protection film on some or all the car, maybe you want to do paint correction to get the finish looking as beautiful as it can. Maybe you want to do ceramic coating because you're sick of having to wax your car twice a year. Because ceramic coating does the same thing but lasts, well, in the case of my 2018, it's lasted 7 years, and now it's finally time for it to be redone, which I will do a little down the road. I can't quite budget for it right now, but that's okay. It lives under a car cover most of the time. Anyway, they have a summer special at Immaculate Reflections, so it's $200 off of any paint correction service, $500 off of any ceramic coating package, and 15% off of any PPF package. So again, check them out, irdetailing.com. That's also how you can get in touch, ask questions, schedule an appointment. Check them out. Finally, I mentioned the Patreon earlier. I'd like to mention it one more time here if you'll humor me for a moment. This podcast is always free. It always has been, always will be, but it is listener supported. It means I rely on the kindness and generosity of all of you to support me and help keep this thing going every single week, as it has for now, and I'll be able to officially say this next week, every week for the last 10 years. So I offer different perks and rewards at the different Patreon support tiers, and all the perks stack. So the higher level that you're willing and able to support at, the more perks and bonuses you will get. The base level pledge, which is just $5 a month, if you do that, you'll get an ad-free episode and you'll get early access to the episode each week, and it'll be early access to the ad-free version. So hopefully you find that valuable and useful, and a nice way for me to say thank you for supporting the podcast at the $5 tier. If you step up to that most popular tier, that's the $10 per month tier, you get the early access, you get the ad-free, and you get all 150-something of those weekly lightning round bonus mini episodes. Again, wanted to unlock this week's About the Tesla Diner as both a little 10th anniversary gift from me to everybody, not just to Patreon backers, but also because this has already been over an hour and a half episode, and I want to be a bit respectful of your time, so you can head on over to the Patreon at patreon.com/Tesla podcast and listen to that review, my review of the Tesla Diner, 40 minutes detailing my experience there earlier this week. And if you're not already following this podcast, I recommend you do it, because the benefit there is that anytime there's a new episode, which, as always for me, is every Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, you'll get a push notification on your device if you're following the podcast on your favorite podcast service. So the way to do that is just search Ride the Lightning Tesla. You can even throw in podcast in there as well on whatever your favorite podcast service is, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube Podcasts, etc. Just search me out there and then click the follow button and you're good to go. Finally, if you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on X and I'm on Instagram with the same username on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. On my Instagram specifically, I've got some pictures and a couple quick little videos of the Tesla Diner from when I was there. And I should add too, my favorite piece of merch. I got a shirt which has the Tesla Diner lightning bolt logo on it, which I like. I'm actually going to wear that to the Tesla Takeover event tomorrow. And then my other favorite piece of merch is behind me. It's on my shelf. If you watch me on IGN, then you've seen my background. And so now in those shelves, the sort of cubbies, which is where I keep my game consoles, I now have my brand new neon Tesla Diner sign, and I love it so much. It's a nice size. It has the lighting. It's blue and red and white lighting, and it just looks great. It's gonna look awesome. I actually can't wait to shoot my first IGN video with it in the background, which will be, well, as you're listening to this week, it'll be the Xbox podcast, which is called Unlocked, and then our other console show, our hardware show, called Next Gen Console Watch. I'm on that as well. Anyway, I don't even remember how I got onto that, but that was some sweet merch that I was able to get from the Tesla diner. Because I was saying that there's pictures of it on Instagram. Anyway, you can email me anytime as well if you like, if you've got some question or topic on your mind that's EV Tesla related. You can email me, teslapodcast@gmail.com. Lastly, a big hello and a bigger thank you to the very generous top-tier Patreon backers, the Roadster in Space tier, the Maximum Plaid tier, and the Grandfathered-in Plaid tier as well. I'll start with the Roadster in Space tier. Big thanks to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Kara Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, Doug Carey, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. Next up, the Maximum Plaid backers. Big thank you to Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Clayton Goodfellow, Kenneth Corbett, Brian Bertoglio, Kim Bay, Troy Sievers, Nick Jacoby, and Chip Hooper. And finally, the Grandfathered-in Plaid level supporters. Thank you so much to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter, and the Bear Boys of Colorado. And that, my friends, will wrap up what is always a very long earnings call episode. There's always a lot to go over, a lot of clips, a lot of things to talk about. But as I always say at the end of these, it's a sprint for me to get these done because the earnings calls are on Wednesday and I record on Friday nights. And so, usually I start the podcast on Monday, like Monday evening, and I'm working on it every night. Well, can't really do that on an earnings call week. You got to just wait for the earnings call to happen. So it's a sprint every time, but my hope is that I always get to this moment right now, the very end of recording the episode, and I feel good about the effort put in. And you know what? I do. I feel good. It feels really good to get to the end of it. I hope you enjoyed the recap, enjoyed the highlights, enjoyed the analysis this week. I had fun doing this one. And again, hope to see plenty of you face-to-face at the X/Tesla Takeover event tomorrow as I'm recording this weekend. But otherwise, I will be back every Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, right here on Ride the Lightning. For, again, I'll just be clear and transparent up front. I don't have any special anything on tap for the 10th anniversary show next week, but it'll be nice to reflect a little bit. I might do that at the end of next week's podcast, perhaps. But until then, happy electric motoring, my friends, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.